This is a video about how to be a man. I have a coach and I'm looking at ways of expressing myself in my work at the moment. One of the areas that I'm investigating is the feeling connection and having the feeling connection visible. When she first mentioned this to me, I thought, well, feeling fine. I have lots of reasons for why I present the way that I do. Anyway, it struck a chord and I started to investigate feelings in relationship to my personal history. Long story short, we end up with this question, how to be a man. I don't pretend to have a kind of universal answer to that. I can only really talk about my own experience. I started to think, well, how do I organize myself around this information? I started to look at the external world and the internal world. I started to look at thought and feeling and emotion and spirit. So I played around with the different formats that might give me a way into talking about this, how to be a man. I must say that I've always thought that men who kind of entertained this subject weren't men. For some reason I kind of had that sort of prejudice. But if I look at my own life, there's an area of my life that I didn't really start to come to terms with until I was in my 50s in a practical way, so that I could enjoy the pleasure of the way that I felt. To do that, I had to come to terms with a very strong emotion called anger. Always considered anger to be a weapon. I thought in this world of verbal hostility, anger was a valid weapon. But what I learnt through the way that I was using it, I don't mean using anger as an energy and allowing it to run through the body, but what I learnt was that anger could be destructive. After the destruction, there was always a cleaning up operation that needed to be done. We see it with the riots. When there's a riot, there's a cleaning up operation that needs to be done. When I look at certain behaviors of the male population, I kind of despair. Fighting is definitely one of the behaviors, and the fighting manifests itself physically, physical disputes, and it also manifests itself egotistically. And what you get, someone's got a strong ego and they use their mind, their thinking process to fight rather than cooperate or create. That is equally destructive. And on a micro level, I have done those things. But if I look at the impact on society that I'm living in, there's clearly something wrong. Our politicians, predominantly male in the United Kingdom during my lifetime, seem to resort to the final solution being war, which is fighting. I find that this as a final solution is disappointing, because after war we're going to have to clean up, just like we do after a riot. So the final solution, war, cannot be the final solution. I think we need to move towards love. I'm not saying lie down and be walked all over. I think we might need to assert ourselves, but I think there is further to go. And I think this capacity to love is an important one. In order to love, I have had to develop a different relationship with my feelings, particularly that sudden rush, that volcanic energy called anger. So I've had to do that. If I was wanting to give any man a tip, I'd be saying, get a relationship with your feeling energy that's not about fighting. If you were in a controlled karate environment, maybe that would be different. But I'm talking about that reactive street kind of fighting, verbally or mentally. that takes place, because that kind of violence creates more violence. It doesn't create more peace. Violence is not the route to peace. Somehow, as a person, to embrace energy, live with it, observe it, allow it to turn into more creative. This ability to be with one's feelings, use them creatively, is probably near the top. So that's me speaking to myself on the subject of how to be a man. I can't help but look at my face. It looks very serious. It seems to me it is very serious. It's kind of heartbreaking, really. How do you do heartbreak on your face? Have people listen to you? I don't know. Bye now.